Hello, hello, and welcome to Awaken Your Human Design. My name is Moni. This is my wonderful co-host, Danny. And today we are continuing our PHS, Primary Health Series / Rave Psychology series by talking about perspective in human design.
I can't wait. So we're making this way around a different kind of wheel in a way. And next week we'll end up with the motivations that are the personalities on Earth. So this is how we see. This is our movement, what we see.
Thank you to everyone who is watching and liking and subscribing and commenting and hanging out with us. We love having you here, and let's get into it. Perspective is about how you are to correctly see the world. It's literally your view and what you're seeing in the world around you. It reflects a unique lens for perceiving the world. It guides the alignment of mind with body's design, and it's determined by your nodal personality color. And you can determine your color on the chart. It is the bottom right arrow and the numbers associated with it, and it's the medial, so the most center number that's in typically a circle. Sometimes it's a little different, and that refers to the color. So you can see it on our little graphic. The arrow is pointing to the yellow circle with the 3 inside of it.
Half the body graphs have them, half don't, it seems, approximately, or so. It has these extra numbers on it to tell us what they are. They're wicked important. We've already done the left 2, and now we're finally on to personality. People will truly jive with this when they see their motivation, and it helps the personality see that it's separate, it's a passenger, because there's always this moment in time where I get to say, who's noticing, and so when we get to that, it'll be, hopefully some people will notice that, oh my God, I'm noticing. Noticing what? The activity of something else.
With like the PHS journey, you start off up here, digestion and determination. It's the top left arrow over here. And that has to do with how your body is taking in nutrients. So you get that in order. So your body is taking in nutrients and processing correctly. And then it moves down to the bottom left arrow, which has to do with your body and your environment and how physical you are and where is the correct environment for you to exist within. So you get these 2 things down on your design, on your body side, and then it scoots underneath here to this bottom right arrow, and that's your perspective, and it's how you see things. So it's like you get your body in order, and then when you're ready to shift over into perspective, it's really quite fascinating because you start seeing the world differently. You start seeing like how you're supposed to see it correctly and what is kind of the distraction or the mirror, doppelganger reverse version of what you see.
Yeah, and it's important to notice that the left side is sort of self-determines itself. You get it right, and now you set it and forget it. And the right side, you don't really work on it. The left side, you will totally work. You have to work on it because you have to pick an environment and start eating your food right. But on the right side, yeah, you do work with it because we work with things. Your main job is to notice it because you can't stop it. You can't fix it. There's no fixing it. You in view, you will be distracted. You will move from distraction to correctness. Same thing with the personality. When we get there, you'll move from transference into correctness. But you see it first. It's not so much you work with it. You do work with it because you see it, but you see it first. The other side, you do see it. You're like, oh my God, I can tell it was different, but you totally have to work on it. Moni, you eat during the day and the light. You have to think about it and plan it and literally work with it to see if it worked. The left side is like working with clay to mold something, and the right side is like allowing concepts to come through that you notice.
No, it makes sense because the left side is the design side. It's the body side. It's the material side. So it's like you're literally physically working with what kind of food you're physically eating and what kind of environment you're physically existing within. So it makes sense that the design is a very material and body and physical thing. And then when you shift over to the personality side, it's not material, it's non-tangible. You're witnessing something and you're noticing when you're seeing something correctly or when you're seeing like the mirror distraction. But I think that's what you're trying to say is like the design.
That's exactly what I'm saying. Yep.
The personality is not physical, it's not material.
Correct.
Here we have our zoom out view of the 6 perspectives as well as their corresponding transferences. So let's do a zoom out thing. And like, what is transference? What is true perspective? What is transference?
On this slide, just generally speaking, transference is what happens. You transfer from one thing to the other, and the transferences are all 3 steps away. So the 1 with the 4, and the 2 with the 5, and the 3 with the 6. That's why you're seeing the 1 goes to 4 want, and the possibility 2 to the 5, and then when you get up to the 4, it's down to the 1. So they're 3 apart each time, and it works very much like our profiles in a way to do that. And when it's in the view, we more call it our distraction. It's a distraction that distracts us. And then when we get up to the personality side, it's also a distraction, but then we it's got the official keynote of transference. And so this becomes this movement where we're distracted and transferring into the thing that we're not. And the thing is, we have to have it because we have to step in there. It's the thing we're not, but it's this flavor that in distraction and transference we need. We need it.
You need the like Uno reverse mirror doppelganger in order to have something to frame against. Like, how can you understand what you're supposed to see if you don't understand what the opposite of that is? So it's like you have something to allow that comparison and that measurement too, which personality is mind, and mind likes measuring. Interesting.
My easiest way to explain it, my view, is 5 probabilities. And so if I'm sitting there concerning myself with its transference into possibilities, I'll lose everything. I'll lose things. I'll because if I'm mired in the possibilities, it's way too much. And then suddenly I have no hope. I have no hope. The possibilities will drive me crazy, but I still have to see the possibilities, because if I'm only probabilities, I become rigid, fixed in one particular way. And we're not meant to be that. We're completely adaptive. This is part of our adaptiveness.
Yeah, it's a really fun thing to start noticing. And it's usually going to be like once you're further along in your human design journey, like this is like totally like more advanced, deeper kind of stuff. But if you're into it, it's really, really fun because you can see it in yourself and you can see it in other people. Like my boyfriend, he has possibility view. And I can hear when he starts, I bet you. When I start hearing him say, I bet you. Yeah, you know what it is? When he gives out these very hard, rigid, probabilistic kind of things where I'm like, ha 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 ha, you are in transference. Like, that is not who you are. You're supposed to be in possibility land.
That kind of a distraction for him, though, it's still needed. It doesn't mean that he was wrong when he said, I'll bet you. He's got a whole life worth of experience. I'll bet you if you hit this hammer with your left hand, you're going to miss, and because you're righty. So he can sort of see that, but only on the most practical things. If he goes through his life viewing the probabilities of things, then he's got a problem. So his I bet yous better be sparing. That's all.
So it's almost like when you're driving a car and like your real perspective is what is in your eyes. It's like what you're looking at straight ahead, left, right. And then your transference is like your rear view mirror, like your side mirrors of like, you need them. You need to like glance up and be like, who's around, who's behind me, who's on the sides. But if you spent your whole time driving, looking through your rear view mirror, like you're going to have a bad time. It's going to turn out wonky.
Right, exactly. But you need it. You need that rear
view.
You
need it as a means of orienting yourself within your space. Again, you're driving, right? And you need
as it relates to driving forward. Yeah.
In order. Yeah, exactly. You're supposed to be driving forward and you need the mirrors to orient yourself within your space, but the mirrors are not a true reflection, right? It's like objects in mirror may appear closer than they are. Right. Like a mirror is not really what's happening. It's a reflection. It's an opposite. It's a doppelganger. You can use it as a point of reference, but if you're driving a car, you're best to look forward.
Right, exactly. So it doesn't mean that the possibility person will never see probabilities. It's just that that's not where they're supposed to be.
Don't drive your car.
Their forward-looking view is just all the possibilities. And as long as they stay there, as a generator, he's satisfied.
I really love
this. Self tells him, don't be satisfied with that. You need to fix it. You need to fifth line fix it and make it a probability or not type thing. Yep.
That's awesome. I really love this analogy of this driving in the rear view mirror things. I was like, oh, that really fits. It just kind of like, I don't know, lays over it. Really perfect. Little cherry.
It's really good. Can I make a request? When we're in the perspective side, let's refer to it more as distraction. That's how Ra referred to it. His word for it is distraction on the keynoting chart thing that I have.
Yeah, we'll use both words.
Yep. Yeah, it is both, because it is both. Absolutely.
Yeah, and just to orient the words together, but I think distraction offers a whole lot, but then also mentioning transference because that's like the official name of it or whatever.
Indeed.
On this side, we have this zoom out overview where both the personality, perspective, and motivations also have this whole added little layer of the variable binary. So this is going to be the zoom out, and then we'll go through 1 through 6 more zoomed in on the next pages. But for
Everything
this,
has a binary, Moni. That's the thing, right? So everything has its binary. Yep. There's always a this and a that. And in human design, there's always a this and a that. And so we need this to move back and forth. But finish your thought. I'm sorry. The
you got real
binary
excited.
thing.
Yeah. So with the personality side, we have this variable binary thing. So on the left, we have our numbers 1 through 6, which is our perspectives. And then depending if it's the left arrow or the right arrow, there's this variable binary situation. And each one is kind of like they're opposites, right? So survival is like communalist, separatist. The possibility is theist, anti-theist. So each of these perspectives, and then next week with the motivations, it'll also have this added layer of the variable binary. So now you explain that.
Keep recognizing when we get into each line, we talk about survival and power and possibilities and want and all of it. We're going to see these things, the master, the novice, the communalist, the separatist, and just a really interesting thing for you to notice is everyone here will be able to see they're on a trajectory. So the first half of your life, between 40 and 45, you are always the opposite of what your arrow indicates, moving towards the second half of your life, and certainly after Chiron, to move towards what the variable actually says it is. Because I'm right, I'm always starting at one and then moving to the other. I'm the one that's always being conditioned.
Because you started off as the conditioner.
As a conditioner, because I have a right arrow with probabilities. And so I start off opposite of that right arrow, which is conditioner, and then I move into conditioned, the conditioned. And if I don't accept that, I'm going to struggle with life.
Yeah, so you start off as like your early life is going to be the opposite of your arrow, and then
it's as if it's giving you a running start to where you're supposed to be. So each one, and if I was a left-facing arrow, I would be the conditioned, and I probably would think I hate it, because I'm strategic at that point. I'm supposed to be the conditioner, that type of not self voice would come out, but it would still be the opposite. So
it's interesting. It's like you almost have to go like all the way in the one direction before it's like, cool, now like the pendulum flips and you're supposed to go all the way in the other direction.
Yeah, that's exactly. Again, it's getting a running start at it, or in the pendulum swing thing, it's like swinging all the way out to get a good long swing into what you really are, type thing with momentum. A pendulum's actually good because it's shows the momentum growing into what you are.
Color 1, perspective 1 is survival. And people with survival perspective view the world through security and stability, prioritizing basic needs and a focus on survival. Their transference or their distraction is when they start seeing the world through want, which is the 4th color, because 1 and 4. They shift into chasing their desires and what they want, which leads to insecurity and getting stuck in their needs and their demands.
First one takes place, the survival. And it is not just about the nitty-gritty of what do I need to survive. Notice those two things go together. That's why this is one is a distraction or a transference to the other. I don't have what I think I need, therefore I question my survival. It's survival in all kinds of contexts. I always point this out, survival in a conversation, because that's just a great way. It's not life or death. It's just you're surviving the moment of that conversation. Do you have what you need? Very often what you need is the information, more information. So if you're a first line, this whole survival sort of resonates with the concept of fear, how fear drives intelligence. And if you live in fear, like you're actually afraid of everything all the time, then you're not living the intelligence, you're living the not self. And it's the same thing here. This whole survival it's a view to see these things are working. These things are worth investigating. These things are where humanity shall investigate as it relates to its overall cognitive and its life's trajectory survival. It's the survival of yourself in a trajectory, in a way, towards beauty and towards communion. That's where we're all moving or want to move. And that survival is our capacity to stay in that. We're not surviving if we're not moving towards this thing. And so we're going to see that and investigate that and make adjustments and do what all first lines do, which is what all first colors are about. Some way, shape, or form. They are all, there's a continuity, and they're all going to have this incredible similarity. You'll see they become a cocktail of about the same thing. And then there's this cool movement, which I think is going to show up on the screen in a second, that shows how we move and where this movement takes us to.
So basically, color one, survival, it relates with fear. And so it's like seeing the world through this lens of survival. If this is a left arrow, then this person is in the trajectory of becoming a communalist and focusing on collective security and thriving in group-oriented structures. Or if it's right arrow, then it's separatist, which prioritizes personal security, thriving in independent safe spaces.
Right. So the separatists will never be fully separate because we need each other. We need the auras of others. If you keep yourself out of the aura of all other of mankind, you're in trouble usually. So we need it once in a while. We need it a lot. What I was mentioning before about this movement. So if you have a right arrow and you look at separatist and you're 30 years old and you wonder why you're not really a separatist, it's because your life journey starts off communalist and starts to move towards, I know what community is. I can now separate, but never by more than necessarily an arm's length, meaning you can come back. To be a healthy separatist is to still go back for dinner, Thanksgiving, and or plenty of things, is still to go back into the community. If you harvest time and you want to help everyone, you show up, or planting time or whatever, you're not without the people. You're just more independent. You are moving towards more rightness independence rather than leftness strategery, which is communalist in nature. Leftness knows, oh, we all got to get together. That's how we survived in the first place. So the survival is community. And in the beginning, when we were first in our, Homo sapien version of ourselves before 1781, we were all left. We only had the first three tones. Every arrow was left. So they were only communalists. And I imagine they were getting sick of that by the end. So there was lots of separation as we approached 1781. People were striking out across the whole world to separate. If you think about it, the years leading up to 1781, we were building boats, we were risking everything, crossing. Oh, dude, they crossed the Atlantic Ocean without knowing. There's no GPS. They didn't know what was there. And many of them knew that there might be serpents and they might fall off the edge, type thing. And they went anyways. Their need to separate grew as we became closer and closer to 1781. And now it's just in our single life, we get to live out both. That movement is glorious. You move, you start opposite of what the arrow says, and you move towards what the arrow says as you move through your midlife process. So see it. If you find yourself with a left-facing arrow and you're strictly communalist and you're constantly annoyed because people aren't doing what you want or something, or it's just not working, and you're always having hard grind and stuff because you're strictly only rolling up your sleeves as communalist, you need to separate. And if you're, between 40 and 50 or moving towards 50 especially, you'll start to see, oh, I'm moving towards communalist. I was supposed to start a little bit separatist, prioritizing your personal sort of security and space first, which is a strategic thing to do in our new combination of rightness and leftness. Separatist, knowing your separatist nature is actually a strategic thing to do so you can serve the community. As you get more intelligent, your strategy is there to serve us anyways. We need that strategic nature. We started out communalists, always be together. Let's get together. Forget the. And now it's like, well, let's get together, at least, maybe 50 yards between us.
Let's stand a few feet away.
My house is over there a little bit, I close the door at night, tend to, and I'm separate now. But I'll be there in the morning. That's the thing, because we still live out our design. This doesn't preclude us. We still live out design. So we'll still be there in the morning if that's the deal. We're still part of the community because all the 3740s, right? We're still sharing our stuff because we're all excited and we found something to share. and we're still being empowered and being unique because we can't help it, and we want to empower the other, right? So all those things are there. You know, you are not separate from mankind. You're just separatist in your sort of nature, more so than not.
Fantastic. All right, you ready for a question from Leah of Greg and Leah?
Oh, yes. Thank you, Leah. Thank you, Leah.
So it's got a couple things. So let me just read through a couple. So Evolve with Greg and Leah. So this is me, Leah, and I'm regularly getting stuck in the wanting because I do feel I won't get what I need to survive. And ironically, Greg is want with the distraction of survival. So basically they have opposite perspectives, which is pretty cute. And then she continues, how do we not, line one, fall into fear?
So the thing is, it's interesting to notice you guys love each other so much that you're willing to keep dragging the other into the thing that they're not and let them survive that. So when our aura drags the other into the thing, and the other aura drags the other into the thing. So his want is conditioning you to be pulled towards want, and your survival is conditioning him to be pulled towards survival. So really the trick to it all is to laugh your asses off at it, come up with words for it like Moni did with zippity doo dah freaking almost husband over there, Ika, right? Who doesn't know anything hardly half the time except his own little specific thing. He's a 2-5. You came up with some cool words, didn't you? Remember, you came up, what was that word? Hypothesis. Because
Oh,
he has
yeah.
that channel of an organizational being, which can sound a little stuck up and pushy because it's its opinion.
Yeah, because he's got the 43-23, and then he has the 17 without the 62. So his hypotheses come out as I know. And I'm like, you don't know shit. So he uses that hypothesis. You could be clever with the words and you can have more fun with it.
Right. And so she came up with, and Ika started saying, well, I hypothesize it this way. And suddenly that helped soften the edge and it made it easier. And by now, they've had a few laughs at watching it take place.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think there's totally a realm of human design humor where if you can start noticing these patterns, you can have the most tense situations where everything is getting edgy and uncomfortable and everyone's freaking out and no one knows why. And in the right moment, if you're just like, you didn't listen to your sacral response and everything got stupid and all the tension drops out and then we're all laughing hysterically. Because a minute ago, we were all caught up in this energetic mess and we didn't know what it was. But now that we can witness it and give it words and explain it to people, it has no power over us and it kind of drops out. So it's like going back to Greg and Leah with the survival and the want thing. It's like, try to notice it. Notice when you fall into want and when he falls into survival and fear and stuff like that. Notice it and like point it out, laugh at it. And I think you could have some play with it.
Survival is very specific, is the thing. And it's the lower part of the trigram. So it's self-concerned. You're just self-concerned with your survival. As soon as you start concerning yourself all the way out into the needs of everything, not just yours, but everything else, that's a way to notice it. Oh, I said my survival view is first self-concerned because it's the lower trigram. So that's a way to notice it. Doesn't mean you have no concern for the other. I'm just saying the first thing is self-concern as it relates to the first 2-3 lines of the trigram. So that's one way to notice it, Leah. And it's not how do you not, because you're supposed to distract, you're supposed to transfer. It's how do you see it quicker and quicker each time so you don't stay there. So each time you distract, as you keep noticing it, you'll find, oh, those distractions are there to give me some extra juice. It's a little extra octane into the fuel because you needed it. Sometimes I need to fill up probabilities limits. And every once in a while, when I distract into possibilities, it's like I'm filling up my probabilities cup some more. So I have some more stuff to go through because possibilities don't limit. There's 10 billion possibilities, but the probabilities are really narrowed down to the same 3. So I'm there with 3, but I need to fill up my cup with some more possibilities because maybe there's something else. It's the same thing with you need to fill up your cup with Leah with the needs or our certain needs. Let's fill it up a little bit. Nah, I got enough. You'll know because you'll start being less than satisfied. You'll start being less than victorious. You'll start being less than your signature. You'll start being less than at ease with yourself. When that happens and you feel those uneasy chemistries, you have transferred if it's regarding this subject. You have distracted and stayed there as a thing you think is true, rather than distracted, which is what Moni said earlier, was, distracted by, hey, I got to look at my review. What's there on a couple things? Okay, back to looking forward again. That's how to, no one stares into their rearview mirror, right? I can't remember the last time I actually had to stare into my rearview mirror, maybe once or twice just for something, but it's wicked. You can't do it. It's too risky. So that's how to see it. And that was a great analogy, the rear view mirror thing, because you
Yeah.
can't stare into it, but you got to look at it.
You gotta take a glance at your like little
Got to
side,
take a
your rear view.
glance.
You're like, what is
Look
it?
at that. Yeah.
Absolutely. Leah also wrote, it looks and often feels like a battle, but there's got to be a gift / treasure there with it having to be exact opposites. Like, that's really funny that like as a couple, they have their opposite.
Yeah. The trick here literally is to recognize both of you being helpless in all of that. So each time it starts to happen, you really got to take a moment to see it, and someone's got to be the first to say it out loud, or hopefully you both do it at the same time. Because as soon as there's a road sign. Are you battling? Road sign. You're distracted. Is there a battle going on? As soon as there is battle, like the first few seconds of it, where it's like, no, you this, no, and then hopefully one of the two of you now will, within the first 5 minutes, recognize, oh my God, we're battling. Where's the distraction? Where's the transference? We've obviously moved. So that's, you use just the very fact that you're sort of battling about something as a road sign, a signpost.
Perfect. Thank you, Leah. I feel good about color 1, survival,
Yep.
with the transference distraction of want. Ready to
Moving
mosey?
to my favorite, one of my favorites.
Because it's yours.
Yeah, I like everything too. I'm wicked partial to two-ness.
Okay, that's fair.
Everything else sucks. Human design humor.
Next up, we have color 2, which is possibility. And these people view the world through optimism and exploration, and they're open to what's possible, and they explore new ideas or practices. The transference for color 2 possibility, the transference or distraction that you will notice is probability, which is color 5, because 2 and 5 have that relationship. So with probability, someone becomes overly analytical, which limits their vision, and they become too rigid, and they start seeing probability instead of possibility, which can cause problems.
Yeah, it's just an archetype. And so this is an easy one to see that we need both. You need both probabilities and possibilities for the very reason I just said. As soon as the probabilities start to get boring, because there's only the same three, I have to fill up the cup to see if there's new mutation out there in the world, right? Everything serves the individual definition inside the body graph. I need to pull in some more possibilities. I need to consider the possibilities and then leave there. I don't make decisions based on possibilities. Unless I'm forced to somehow, I guess in a moment, but it's not going to be the best decision. And I move back into the probabilities, and that's how my voice will articulate generally. But I can see it. It's important to be able to see, well, there are other possibilities, because other people will bring up stuff. And I'll be like, yeah, I guess those are possibilities. If I'm truly open-minded, I'll see that, hey, I have no proof yet, unless I do, but mostly we never have proof. How do we know most things? And so you have to accept that, okay, those are there. So good. But I'm going back to probabilities, and it's there to condition or be conditioned. Yeah.
That's interesting. It kind of just illuminated it a bit more for me, more than survival and want. I was like, okay, cool, they're opposites, that's great. But as you're saying, since yours is probability, you can be going through all those probabilities all the time. But if you were only looking at probability,
I'd be limited.
stuck. You'd be limited. And then it's almost like you said, you need to refill on like, okay, these are all the probabilities within my frame of knowledge. But that's only within your frame of knowledge. So you need to see what's here in your blinders to be like probability, or possibility,
What else has
possibility.
came in?
What
Right.
else has come in for that to come in? And then for you to view it through, okay, those are the possibilities. What is the probability?
Right. Back to probability. It's about for me, it'll always be taking 1,000 possibilities if someone brings 1,000, or if 1,000 arrive, and still boiling it down to certain probabilities. And for almost forgetting those possibilities, in a sense. They just sort of move out of my view mostly. They might come back, but they move out of the view primarily, and I'm back to the probabilities. But because it's a rightness on my side, I have a right facing arrow there. They all went in. All the possibilities went in. I took them all in. And so I don't really know what they are, but the things I have easiest access to are the probabilities.
Interesting. Yeah, and possibility, it's so hopeful. It's so like, oh, well, it could be this, it could be anything. Like they have such a people who have possibility as their view, just like there's such an optimism about them.
Totally, totally. So don't forget what second lines do. Second lines are there to filter out all the other noise or substantial amounts of it so that their uniqueness isn't really influenced or affected by other things easily. It is sooner or later, but that's only when it is called out or truly interrupted. And the people with the most obviously right to interrupt that are the tribes, because sometimes they have to interrupt the two no matter what. But that possibility, it does totally align with hope. It's a hopefulness. It's sort of a belief system at the same time. And when you see the binary between it, you'll see why I'm saying it that way. It's not only a belief system, it's a deep-seated recognition that all the possibilities are indeed possible. The probabilities folks don't see it that way. The other colors don't even really, that's the noise talk. Possibilities, the fear, the need and the want people are like possibilities. Yeah, possibilities, schmossibilities, man. Don't weigh me down with that. I got enough going on with what I'm looking at already. So, this stands alone. And the second line, the hermit, has everything to do with the possibilities, sitting there in your own little world, not allowing other people to tell you those aren't possibilities. That's the thing. And then the hopefulness that it shows up there. And there's this very spiritual aspect to it because they're technically alone in that. Second lines are sort of alone in most things.
Because hermit.
Alone, yeah, alone together. They can be with their spouse sitting right next to them, but in their little inner process, they don't fully see it that way. They just see themselves as, oh my God, I'm definitely all alone in here. There's this woman sitting next to me. I know I love her. I keep saying it. It's possible all that stuff, but they're in their own little process. Oh my God, that's my wife. God, I love the crap out of her. What am I saying? This is perfect, but the possibilities are still this. And that's what they do. It's a really unique process. And it's when you see the binary go back and forth, you're gonna chuckle at it.
Here we have the left arrow is the theist, and these people actively seek out spiritual or meaningful possibilities, and they lean into their faith. Whereas the right arrow is the anti-theist, which embraces ambiguity, and they're open to diverse ideas without rigid beliefs, and they stay open to diverse perspectives.
Absolutely. Theist and anti-theist. I mean, that's just funny. And the anti-theist isn't there is no God. The anti-theist in the nine-centered being is I'm not so sure about this organized religion.
Mm.
And the theist on the left side absolutely is there is God. But both sides have their spiritual nature. It's about the homogenizing, organizing principle of the seven-centered way of conducting religion itself. We've seen what some of that does, and it can get a little dicey at times, right? Too much power in the hands of men. Come on, not self-men mostly. So that's what it is. And the anti-theist is a lot like the separatist. They're a little bit less than all of that. So if everyone's going to the same church, the anti-theist might be like, I'm not so sure. You guys can go be a Pepper and a Dr. Pepper too, but I'm not a Pepper. Would you like to be a Pepper too? Remember the old slogan?
Yeah.
This is, but I'm not that necessarily. So, but then the anti-theist may still show up because there's a transference. There's a back and forth to all of this. So if you have a right arrow, you start out as a theist, like, oh my God, there might be God. There's this God. That's all. Is it a probability? Is it a possibility? A lot of juice there. Can't prove it either way. And then they move into this. I have spirituality. I have hope. I'm a second line. I love being me. If they're right with themselves, I'm not going to let any one way tell me exactly how it's going to be because I'm too fluidically in tune with the fact that there's a lot of possibilities out there. But the anti-theist, very often, like myself, I'm not necessarily anti-theist, but I know I've sort of moved in this direction a little bit, being a second line profile. So it'll always resonate with that, even though this is not my actual color. And it will move towards a rejection of someone trying to tell me how God is. I
Mm.
can love God all by myself. I love God. I think God's great, man. God's my friend. I say it like that. People say you're not taking God seriously. That sounds sarcastic. Oh, good. I'm glad you say so, but I'm glad you're not in my head. I think God's great. I love God more than you do. Prove it. You know, totally. It's like it's because they don't know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Nobody who can know. We're unique. That's a thing. We're unique. And if you start with the left arrow, you start out like potentially in this anti-theist camp that moves towards the theist. And again, what a strategic thing to do to move towards a fixed thing.
Mm.
That is a huge glue in society that keeps society. We've seen what happened in our society as we have lost all forms of religion in America. When I say
Got
lost,
weird.
it
Got
got weird. We
really
disorganized it. The government said, don't even look at it, don't even say the words. And they tried to pretend like it's not how the country was founded. And all that stuff didn't work out well, has not worked out well. Took it out of our schools entirely. We don't need to beat Jesus Christ into our students, but
don't throw out
one
the baby Jesus with the bathwater.
right, but exactly, but we can at least pledge of allegiance in one nation under God, indivisible, with a liberty and justice for
Yeah,
all. What big deal? And
it's a
if you
nice
don't want
thing.
to, with sprinkles on top type thing. So
Yeah.
that's this is the movement. We are moving towards this because they're in the second line, and the second color, and the second tone are all these deep senses of a spiritual nature that says somewhere there is something so much larger than myself out there. The second line reminds me very much of just gate 25, and it's recognition that I might be pretty small, but I'm also pretty big, and I never quite know. There's a lot of possibilities out there. I just love watching the world go round. It reminds me of John Lennon's song where he was happy just watching the wheels go round and round. He really loved to watch them roll. That's a second line thing to do. And out of that comes a whole ton of possibilities. And the next thing you know, they might see a couple of probabilities and all of that. They might say something about it. They might even be called into one. But back to the possibilities, they shall go to be them right selves, moving their theist or anti-theist trajectory. Bam. I feel good about that. I am done.
Awesome. Cherry on top. Next slide. Next up, we have color 3, which is the perspective of power. And they view the world through winners and losers and focusing on influence and impact and directing energy for change. This is about keeping the score and letting people know where they stand and of having a focus on collective impact. The transference or distraction to power is the perspective of being personal. It's a personal perspective, which is color 6, because 3 and 6 have the relationship. So if you're in transference with this personal perspective, you don't care who wins or loses, and you're more focused on the self than the other. And it shifts to an ego-driven motive, very personal kind of motivation, and loses the broader impact of having that zoomed out who's winning, who's losing kind of view.
Yeah, as long as that ego-driven motive is not actually motive, because in a way, personal, just like innocence in the motivation, it's the one, how the first 5 lines of the house, 1 is the foundation, and 5 is really the fullest, robustest expression of the hexagram, and then 6 is the transition out from on the roof, looking out over everything, demanding optimism, demanding all of its stuff that it be, in order and have beauty attached to it. This drive, personal, is the lack of a motivation, just like the 6 line in a hexagram is sort of the lack of the earlier part of the hexagram in a way, because it's transitioning into something. Its job is to transition. It is the lack of it's motivationless action. You can read the lines of gate 25 and relate a lot of this stuff into it. It is a motiveless action. It is I don't really have a motive to any of this. My personal thing sees it could be this, could be some of that. And its desire is to transfer into the want. It's like I've been looking at could be some of this, and I've missed out on who all the winners and losers are. So if you have personal as your view, recognize 6 lines are looking out over everything. 6 color is viewing everything, right? When you're talking about a 6 line, we talk about viewing not just the rest of the channel, but the entire circuitry. If you have a 6 line at gate 6, you're not just viewing the 6 and the 59 for mating. You're viewing the whole tribal experience, and there better be resources and there better be a bargain that's worth all of it. If you have a 6 line in gate 6, There better be protection. There better be defense on the other side. There better be the right values, right? We better have continuity. I want to see some drive here. They want the whole kit and caboodle because that's what six lines are for. They're here to show us it's all supposed to be there. So they can't be everything. So they end up becoming nothing, but they're everything as needed. That's what personalness is. It is literally the opposite of motivation or of full view. It's just full view and viewless at the same time. It's innocent in its own way, and it's not there to see the power transference as a regular thing. It's only there to dip into it so it doesn't stay in the clouds the whole time and lose track of every last thing that ever happened. Basically, the personal view needs to step off of where it's at once in a while and turn on the news, find out what's happening.
I feel like you've skipped the step of talking about power and gotten totally into personal.
Oh,
I knew it. I knew it. I knew it. I was like, wow, Danny, your show is going a lot into this personal motivation while we're talking about power.
that's so funny.
So that's all the transference for power,
Yeah.
which is about winners and losers.
Okay, good. Would you read the first thing again so I can please? I can read it myself, but it's
I'll
here.
reread it. So
Thank
power
you.
is about viewing the world through winners and losers, focusing on influence and impact, and directing energy for change. This is about keeping score and letting people know where they stand with a focus on collective impact. So very
Big
much,
time
yeah.
collective. Yeah. What were we gonna say?
I was just gonna say, because this is my view. My view is power. And when I was in
Mm.
like totally oblivious, not self land, I was absolutely just la 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 and personal. And then my motivation is guilt. So it's about fixing things. So I have like power and guilt. So I'm supposed to see who's winning, who's losing, and how to fix stuff. And I was completely in like la 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 and the personal and hope it works out and possibility and just very airy fairy without
Just
doing.
more die. You'll be fine,
Yeah,
right?
just don't worry about it. It'll be
Honey, do your
great.
nails. You'll feel better. Right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
I get it.
So yeah, power is very much in seeing the winners and losers. And I can say, as I shifted through my digestion and determination, and then fixing my environment with my body in the right place, and then the points, and this is within the past like year or so, that I've really been feeling that perspective shift, going from personal, whatever happens, happens kind of thing, and actually seeing like, oh, those people are losing that idea battle and these people are winning, and like, oh, that just switched, and like all of a sudden it started to like click into place of actually seeing the winners and the losers, and that's been in the past year, and that's been really fascinating.
Well, just to show this one here, and power is relatively easy to see all the lines that attach to it because it's very much wrapped up with the material world. The winners and the losers is about the material movement of this material of the world.
Just
Third
line
lines,
three.
yep, third lines are very much the material line of the six lines of the hexagram. And in the tonal quality, this is our outer vision. This is the capacity of us to have stood upright on both feet, and now we're 4 and 5 feet above standing up, so we're above almost everything. We're even taller than a bear when it's on its four legs. We're standing up naturally, looking over everything, and that is a strategic thing to do. It gave a lot when we could stand up over the grass. Literally, we became more powerful, like a lot, because we can see what's moving out there now, and that became a big deal. So this whole views the world through winners and losers. It's trying to keep score. It's letting people know not only where they stand, but it's this whole thing that resonates so deeply to what the third color is in the personality. Desire, the desire to lead, the desire to make it move along. This is the view of what is getting moved along. Should you take part in it's getting moved along? Look at that great stock pick. Maybe I need to be part of that too. That type of thing. And it wants material stuff. It's supposed to see the beauty in having the right material in its life, and see how that gives it power. The power is about what gives you the power, and the power is about you seeing the power. So you'll see the power in yourself, and you'll see the power generally. And in a nine-centered framework, that power is there to basically empower the rest. of the collective, and the rest of the collective, because the collective contains all the tribes and all the individuals, so as a literal thing. So that's what power is all about. It's whole transference, which I dealt with extensively in the beginning, is exactly what I dealt with in the beginning. Just listen to it in reverse. So I don't want to go back. I don't even want to go back there because I'll get distracted.
It was real cute. You ready for the left and right arrows?
Yes.
So with the perspective of power, the left arrow is the leader, which thrives by actively leading and shaping outcomes, where leaders take charge of projects. If you have this as the right arrow, it's the follower, which thrives by supporting strong leaders or systems, and followers align with inspiring visions.
The leader that becomes the follower, or the follower that becomes the leader. This is very much in power, the power that views what is winning, what's working and what's not working, who has and who doesn't have, where is it not. These are all material questions. And so we need leadership, and then we need followers as it relates to building that. This is, if you look at this, this is the third line. This is the end of the process of the lower trigram. It is the end of the process of the earlier human form, Homo sapien, that ended in 1781 and became us, Homo sapien intransitus, like literally. So this whole thing that now opens up, we were all trying to be leader, and that's why we had to beat people down to be a follower prior to 1781. Now we're always a mixture, and we're always mixing it up. And that's why, for instance, the channel of the alpha needs to be elected, because we're constantly mixing it up. We don't, how many followers, how many leaders we got here? Too many leaders, too many chefs in the kitchen. It's hard to be the alpha at that moment. Mm-hmm. It doesn't stop you from having that life force and be contributing. And it's the same thing here. As a right facing arrow, you start out learning leadership and becoming that, moving towards being a follower. If you start out with a left arrow, you start out as a follower because that's a strategic thing to do. It's the lower trigram process. It's like what the first line of the lower trigram defines what the lower trigram is doing primarily. So we're investigating, we're trying to figure it out, we're bumping into what may work. We don't yet know. We're self-absorbed in a lower trigram process. So the follower must follow to get to know. Again, notice how strategic it is to spend some time apprenticing, following, and then finally figure out what it is to lead. But it's still personal destiny stuff. It's still self-concerned, self-absorbed, like stuff. I want it this way. I like it that. I'm gonna, and then that I bumps into the other and realizes there's we. Okay, still it likes we. It sees we all the time, right? So it's not like it's new to it. Didn't crawl out from under a rock. So it totally adapts to that. And in that we, someone leads, someone follows. There's always a mixture, and sooner or later those roles change. I'm not leading today. Someone else has totally took the bull by the horns. What are they saying? They need what? Okay, whatever they say, now I'm following that. And we start to mix it up in our 9-centered form, because we jettison and get rid of our 7-centered ego trip. That is like, I'm in charge, I'm the boss. That's the old way. So just this whole thriving by supporting, and it's not just strong leaders, it's supporting movement. Generally, you can follow the general movement of the community. The leader of the community might not be around, but you're still supporting its movement, and vice versa. It just works back, actively backwards. When we get to the personality, I have this aspect of my personality, and I know that I thrive on actively trying to make something happen. But at the end of the day, my movement is right. So the older I get, the more I move towards the follower. And I rather like it that way. I think we were laughing about that before we came on. Mm-hmm. When I was like, I've let so many people tell me what to do in the past 4 or 5 years. It's like
you would have never allowed it before.
I might not have ever allowed it had I been still the conditioned man that I once was. But as I moved into this time of my life, it wasn't that hard. It was a load off, frankly, sort of like the open ego recognizing I'm not responsible for proving it.
I don't got to fix it. Yeah, I have power as my perspective, and I'm a right arrow, so I'm going in the direction of follower. And it's been very interesting to notice, especially in the past few years, where so much. It's like I had to, which is funny, to like start off as a leader as like a projector is like, come on now. But like having to figure out so
Totally.
many things on my own and learn how to like lead the charge and figure it out and do it yourself. Whereas all the things I learned from all of that now come into play to help me be a better like follower, where I've really come to notice is like, oh, I love playing support staff. Like, especially with stuff that I know how to do, of like performing or doing fire performances or dancing or something like that, where I'm like, I know what you need in this moment to help you do a good show. And just being able to be that cheerleader and having the little things that will help them and being able to really enjoy playing support staff so the show can still be made better, even if I'm not the one performing on the stage.
Isn't it the truth? So one of the beautiful things I noticed with all of this is this whole notion that as we're doing this going back and forth in our enlightened nine-centered form, where our movement is towards more beauty rather than towards more stuff, acquisition of material power versus the movement of leadership and following towards more beauty that does contain material stuff, two different things. And in this movement, in our nine-centered being that's here now, this trades back and forth. We need a good follower to be a good leader. We need good leaders to be good followers. And you know what? This theme is written in our literature throughout time. It is written elsewhere in the body graph. 1762, the design of an organizational being says acceptance. In order to lead, one must first follow. So that's a fact. It's built into us. So recognize you go back and forth between this, and you carry qualities of both, just like humanity and transitus carries both leftness and rightness. And by the way, don't just look at your personality and nodal arrows to determine your rightness and leftness. I mean, look at them for primarily, but recognize if you think, oh my God, I'm 4 parts left, you're not, you're 4 parts left there, but you're not all left. Every single gate on both sides has a tone, has a base, has a color, has a line. Every single one of them has an arrow pointing left or right, but we're only concerned with the ones that we can take in the most. We can't really absorb that. We absorb the personality and the design sun earth and the personality and design nodes. That's what we actually absorb. If you notice, all couching around the moon to help give that focus and that drive of where these things go. These upper planetary placements really, they make a big difference. But yeah, power and its movement, leader follower. One other thing about leader follower, it's still personal destiny stuff, right? As I was saying before, don't expect a lot of loyalty here necessarily. The leader of something might get up and say, well, okay, let's charge. And the followers might say, well, I'm not necessarily charging into that right now. I mean, because following is not contracted indentured servitude. It doesn't come with the will of the love of the being to have a will necessarily to be just so with that. That doesn't happen until we move into the next one. But you'll notice these two things go together. They wicked go together. When we move into 4, you'll see what that movement is. And it absolutely is the opposite of what I just said. So the president of the United States or the president of the corporation can get on the intercom and say blah 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 blah, and half the people in there might be like, yeah, whatever, I'm pretending to listen.
Mm-hmm.
They won't say that when it comes to what happens in the 4th line, where it becomes master novice. The leader can't get the followers to do nearly the same things the master can get the novice to do, and vice versa, because they condition each other. The love of your teacher will move you to do many things. The love of master when we get to it. So back to power, the view of who's winning and who's losing. Keep that in mind. It's not a personal thing as it relates to someone's bad or good. It's just what you're noticing. Don't shy away from it, and don't fall into the transference that stays there and becomes this sort of innocent personal view that is motivationless and doesn't seem to care so much. By the way, this view could very easily be called, when we get to it, could very easily be called the transference into narcissism. The 6th color here carries qualities that we have defined as narcissistic. We'll get to that when we get to it.
All right, we'll get to that. Next up, we have color 4, which is the perspective of want. And they view the world through seeing what's lacking, driven by desire and pursuing what excites, seeing what is necessary, and helping people focus on what is necessary and pursuing what lights you up. On the flip side, you have the transference or the distraction of survival, which is color 1, because 1 and 4 have that relationship. So when perspective of want flips into the transference or distraction of survival, they focus on scarcity and survival, losing sight of desires, fears about personal survival instead of other people in the community.
Yeah, so there's so much stuff going on as it relates to this particular aspect. This want is so important. Want can basically distract and transfer into almost all the other colors, but it primarily does into the survival because the want thinks it doesn't have what it needs to survive. Because if it flails about from the not self and constantly keeps looking into its own survival, it doesn't see what's needed. The want is there. Like if you're looking at the world with want, and it's you're seeing the things that people don't have. You're seeing the things that would be good for you to want. You're seeing the things that are stupid to want, because there's plenty of things that are stupid to want. It's the transpersonal version, because it's stepped into the fourth line now, of being something worth externalizing. This is where the fourth line externalizes. This is where the fourth line externalizes and allows to tell the other people what they may want. It allows to start the sharing and the empowering and the externalizing process of what do we want? Not, oh my God, I'm afraid because I don't have. And so now I think I want what I don't have. It's just, where are we headed in virtue of what is it do we want? It's actually an existential question. And it's something that shows up that externalizes the step before universalizing. It's meant to be spoken out into the world. Want is meant to be talked about. And it's just about things. It's about things you see, aspects. We want people to have certain traits. We want people to have certain courtesies. We want to have certain materials. We want to have ink in our printer. We want. And it is very material in its nature and partly, but it's also got its own spiritual sense of awe. Like the picture, I want pizza. Yeah, I love that picture. I want pizza too. I'm going to have pizza when this is over now, I think of it. And so, with all that in mind, as it transfers into survival accidentally, it becomes afraid. And now it can't think straight. Now the cognition isn't working. Now it can't see clearly. Now, if it's a right-facing arrow, the confusion is insane. If it's a left-facing arrow, the anxiety is insane, because they're anxious about what they strategically know they think they want, but they can't have because they're too afraid. They're too afraid to recognize that they must not want it if they're living in fear of it. This is strictly a want that is shared through externalization to the other, and it's talked about. So if your wants are never talked about at all, then you're doing yourself a bit of a disservice. They should sort of come out. So, Leah, what's your husband's name? Greg, just share what you want. Share what you want. And Leah, don't be afraid that you don't have it. And then Greg, don't concern yourself with being afraid of it, other than to look at what survival things and aspects might there be to your want, but then go right back to the want itself. And then Leah, don't concern yourself so much with what you want. You're holding down the whole thing as it relates to all the things, the aspects and the investigation that's going to go into these things. The only problem that ever come up is if the wants are so different. I want to go to the moon. I want to join Elon Musk going to Mars next year. Well, just so you know, Greg, I don't think Leah wants that. Okay. So she's got a little concern about that. And I don't think she'll be transferring into that anytime soon. But short of that, hopefully that helped.
Here we have the left arrow, which is master, and they thrive by mastering skills or pursuits aligned with their desires. And the right arrow is the novice or the student, and they thrive by exploring new passions without the pressure to perfect.
This is the teacher student, the master novice, where the leader and the follower is less than fully personal to each other, because they're both personal destiny lines. Lower trigram, the fourth line, left angle process, is very clear that there's stuff on the other side. And the stuff on the other side is what the teacher and the student, or the master and the novice, are doing. Master, how will I find out what this I Ching hexagram is in my body? And the master says to the student, you will have to find out. I'll be with you on your journey. And for that, the student loves the master. And there's love there. There's the leader follower doesn't have full love. There's respect, potentially, and all that. But the student loves his teacher. I was taught piano. I loved my piano teacher. I mean, but all of them, actually, now that I think of it, there's a love there. It's incredible. So this is about externalizing that love. We're always moving towards love, beauty, and direction, right? The Sphinx is empowered by the vessel empowers the movement, the Sphinx is the movement, and it's the same thing here. So views this world seeing for what's lacking, the master teaches. Seeing this world through what's learning, the novice learns. And seeing the world through the combination of these two things, we come to know stuff. So much so that we've figured out AI. I mean, now we don't even need to know anything. We just ask a computer. It's like Star Trek, computer, that's crazy. So that's what this is. This move. So if you're a right-facing arrow, you start out as the master of certain things. And the thing is, at a younger age, that might be a little bit difficult if you think you're supposed to be mastery. This one is a little bit difficult. Part of the reason why fourth colors on the personality side can transfer to all the other colors, especially they can, and in the personality they specifically do, with a special emphasis on the primary transference.
I've heard about this. Explain more about why color 4 transfers into everything.
Because color 4 becomes the expression of what all the first 3 were, and we spent so much time on the first 300,000 years or more that by the time we finally got our first color 4, it was like a kid in a candy store, and this became the fire hose through which everything went. It's the fire hose. That's why it has to close its eyes. The fourth tone says, shut up, don't even look at it. You have inner vision and meditation, literally. And the want of this fourth view, just like the need of the fourth color desire, when we get to it next week, it's got this whole capacity to share this externalization through a master novice relationship. We're always moving towards one, but these things even transfer to each other, because as a younger man or woman, what are we the master of? Yet if you've got a right facing arrow, you're gonna, like I do, I move from mastery into noviceness, right? This is because it doesn't make sense in this particular way, but it's only the fourth line that doesn't. Just like the fourth line of 54, the Alpha and Omega, the only line in the whole 384 that's any different than what's in the I Ching. Just like what the fourth line does as it relates to this inner binary when we're dealing with it, and this is the energetic. The fourth line is the externalizing of the energetic. The third line is the bumping into it. It's the practical part. Bump into it. Let's find out what works. Let's find out what doesn't work. The fourth line is stuck with whatever works or doesn't work. I'm externalizing it, and I'm wicked fixed on this thing. Yeah, it transfers towards, oh, I'm fixed on too much, so I'm personal. You know what? I'm fixed on a lot. I'm going to have to fix this and fix that. You know what? I'm not fixed on enough stuff. I'm a little afraid. I better come up with some stuff. I have needs. I have wants. I have desires. I need to lead. I don't need to lead. It transfers through all of them. But its primary transference is to fear. And that's why fourth lines get a little bit confusing. It's the very 100 and some odd thousand years, we had 3 tones, and that's it. So when we opened up the fourth, all the rest of the 4s in the body graph had a little party, and they're still a little drunk from it. And that's a funny way to put it, because we're still in a 7-centered hangover from trying to figure out our old way. And want simply says, I can transfer to anything. I primarily transfer through to the survival aspect of what do I really want for my survival, and then what do I want to externalize for the rest of the survival. And then it says we need to teach this. Fourth lines are the teachers anyways. We already know that. The 11-4 and the 12-4, the great teaching gates through the prophet and the teacher. The prophet and the teacher. 12 prophet, 4, 12-4, and 11-4 the teacher. The fourth line of 45, that must teach the tribe. It teaches and it externalizes that teaching after it was done doing what the first line demands, which is canvassing. So canvassing is studying, and the fourth line's externalizing is making sure everyone knows, spitting it out there into your giant network as the king and the queen of the whole tribe. So want is wicked important, and it can get confusing. And if you guys, Leah and Greg, have this as a transference, just recognize I pointed out why it's so challenging, or more aspects of that. So don't try to pin it down. Don't try to work with it. Try to recognize it when there's conflict, because there's no real conflict. You guys don't want to have to care about any of this, neither one of you. You don't, when it's all done, you ever notice you don't care. You're like, oh my God, what did I even care that much? I can't even remember if I did care that much, is sort of how most things end.
Next up, we have color 5, which is the perspective of probability. Probability view the world through logic and patterns focused on likelihood. It's focused and rigid with an assumption of expectation, realistic, pragmatic, and staying grounded in reality. The transference, the distraction, is possibility, which is color 2, because 2 and 5 have that relationship. And possibility is about seeing more the possibility than the probability, and getting lost in unrealistic dreams, possibility, which causes confusion.
It will always cause confusion because it doesn't have what's required to form a probability. The possibility never has the full foundation of what's required to form a probability. It just has possibilities.
Could be this,
But
could be this.
But like I said before, the probabilities person needs those possibilities. They need to continue to fill up their cup with them, so they must dip down there and pick them up from time to time. That's the distraction. This whole views the world through logical patterns, is trying to make logical patterns, is very much tied into the logical circuitry as it relates to the collective, by the way. Same with its tone. And it's required, it's requiring itself to say, I must limit the field, and I must speak in a sense that then my view supports the personality fifth color, which is to fix things, guilt. Don't forget, these views are in support of the light, but they're also in support of the witness, the passenger, being able to see correctly, being able to see that it is a passenger, and being able to see that it, if it's got a fifth color in the personality side, that it is there to fix things, to help fix stuff. That's what guilt does on the personality side, the personality sun earth.
On the motivation.
Yeah, and the motivation. But here in the nodes, it's just saying, I can measure. And since I'm going to externalize, I can't externalize possibilities. No one's going to listen. I can only gain wisdom from possibilities and listening, but I can gain credibility by identifying the correct probabilities. So probabilities people have to determine the right probabilities, and if they live in possibilities for too long, they'll bet the whole farm instead of just betting $20 on lucky number 7 because I possibly could get it. And the probability is, I'm looking at these dice up here in the far right hand corner, and I rolled 2 7s within the last 20 minutes. I'm not betting on 7s right now. I'm not doing it. I might get it. I realize it's possible. I might get it 4 times in a row, but I'm still not going to bet the farm. I'll bet $20 because the probability is I've already seen it once or twice in the past 10 minutes. The dice are a great, perfect representation of probabilities. So that's probability. It's a pretty easy one to understand. This is a good one to see. They all are a good one to see. And Leah and Greg, when you were witnessing your thing, I would like you to ask yourselves the same question as you see it that I had to ask myself, that Ra asked me. Ra asked me this question one day, and I was listening to this whole dissertation about this, and it was like, your probabilities, and suddenly you notice you're stuck in the possibilities, and it's a little disorganizing. There's too much there. You're out of your field, and it doesn't quite feel right. But you're still looking at it and you're wanting it, and now suddenly you feel hope, like a little bit of hope. Maybe it'll be this way. Are you noticing? And I'm sitting there saying to myself, yeah. And it's like, and he asked, who's noticing? This is a mechanic taking inside a place inside of you, and you're noticing as if you're separate from it, because technically you are. The passenger is just the passenger. The passenger isn't even mind, technically. Mind just speaks for passenger, and mind is not self. The passenger itself is waiting to be unconditioned. It's like the alien that got here and said, I want experience. And it said, look at all these creatures. And it hopped into one of the meat suits. And it's been here for so long that itself got conditioned and it forgot why it was here. We need to drag that person out by seeing this difference. So when you see yourself transfer, ask yourself who's noticing. Who's noticing? Because you'll start to realize, oh my God, uh, my me is noticing, but my me is not the probability or the possibility. That's just my me's view. I'm actually a passenger in all of this, noticing all these operations through all of the things, the view, the mind, the personality, the design. We're passengers, folks. We're moving along in meat suits with finite life cycles through the agency of a crystal consciousness being programmed by a neutrino stream. So go figure that one out. What's the probability you're going to be able to answer what all that means before the end of one lifetime? Possible.
Not likely.
Maybe not. You never know, though.
For our arrows, with the left arrow, it's conditioner. And these people shape systems or plans for practical outcomes. Conditioners organize logically. On the flip side, we have the right, we have the conditioned, and they adapt to existing structures or patterns, and they're conditioned to align with proven systems.
Absolutely. And the conditioned, it doesn't mean they don't recognize the logical part of shaping things. And the conditioner doesn't mean that they don't get conditioned sometimes. So if you're a right-facing arrow, you move from the conditioner, always marching out and sort of conditioning the scene. Then you're moving towards just the conditioned. That's my movement in life. And then if you're a left-facing arrow, you start out being conditioned and take a logical path that is strategic towards, think about it, being conditioned, just letting yourself be conditioned. That's the definition of receptivity and openness, open receptive, like a right-facing arrow is. And strategic, if you're a left-facing arrow, the very definition of that is when you're young, you're conditioned until you can realize what you're going to condition on your own. So you start out with a logical process that says, I'm observing because it's a strategic thing to do to come to know. And then you become a conditioner as you move throughout your life process past the halfway point. So this movement actually makes sense. And the conditioning, again, think of all the fifth line things, attractiveness, the general, the person who is a heresy. If I condition you to be a certain way, that's a heresy potentially, or it's the best thing since sliced bread. We don't know, but we're always sort of projecting upon that conditioner conditioned, which is also the Casanova or the femme fatale, which is also the attractive one, and the general, which is also, in this case, conditioned and conditioner. That's what the fifth line is always doing. It is being a type of invitation to hear my universalization that then is going to change everything or not. And what makes a good probabilities person that is moving through this process is the strength of their convictions. And their convictions don't come from mind. They come from living out your strategy and authority. And then sooner or later, mind gets involved with all of that. And then mind starts to deliver really good convictions that body already knew. So if you have a fifth color here, recognize your convictions are going to matter a great deal. You're here to condition things. You're here to move between these two things to witness what they mean by juxtaposing them to each other.
Yeah, we.
That's a lot. People are going to have to listen to this more than once.
Yeah. Well, you got a compliment from Jen. Wow. Thanks, Danny. Really helpful.
Oh my God, Jen. Which one are you? Can you say?
Probability left. So conditioner.
Got you. So you started out conditioned. This is going to make sense. If you fought that too much, that was to your detriment. So you'll find out. And if you did fight it a little too much, then you'll start to see, give yourself a break. Doesn't matter. Here you are. And if you didn't fight it too much and lived it out, recognize the grace in all of that. You're here to see probabilities and fill your cup up with a few possibilities and get right back to the probabilities again. And then when you see it, ask yourself who's noticing.
She said probability left and frustrated.
Well, you need to dial in for a reading, Jen. You need to get that read for you.
Oh, well, she said not anymore of those. I think formerly conditioner and frustrated.
Got you. Well, I'd be honored to read for you, Jen.
There you go.
About tearing this body graph apart and seeing how it works. Man, it's a beautiful thing.
Finally, we have color 6 perspective, which is the personal perspective. And they view the world through their own process, which can look kind of selfish. And it focuses on individuality and inner truth, prioritizing self-awareness, and embrace your unique journey if this is your perspective. The transference or distraction is power, which is color 3, because 3 and 6 have that relationship. So personal perspective, when it's in the transference or distraction of power, they start measuring and competing, seeing winners and losers and keeping score, and they start seeking validation, power, and losing their inner connection.
Yeah, this whole losing that inner connection through noticing the power is quite severe here, because in its innocence, this personal perspective, this view that can view the whole world with a certain amount of detachment first before it decides to attach to something, will attach to all the wrong things as soon as it starts measuring the competition and determining who's winning and what they think they don't have. It will cause them to start thinking about things they don't need, and it'll cause them to think about things that don't matter as well, assuming they have an open head center. It's a hard one to describe because it's the lack of any particular view, because it's your own internal view. And earlier I did mention this personalness is so personal into the self. It's almost as if it's like it's the only thing that matters, even though it sees everything else, because it's a 6 line, a 6 color, 6 tone. You know, all these 6 qualities are about seeing out over everything and holding out this optimistic demand that all of your needs will be met. But the truth of the matter is, it also looks narcissistic. This personal thing looks narcissistic. It's like that person doesn't, they'll just say whatever because they don't care about me. You know, the observer and the observed is here. We'll see it when we get to the binary. And the thing is, it's a little bit narcissistic to just be the observer. And if you're just the observed because you're the one in movement for whatever reason, then that can seem a bit narcissistic too. It seems callous towards the other, like willingly, because again, it's this upper trigram. So the anticipation of the other by stepping into your aura is that you're going to share some of that. That's looking out over at me, like a 6 line is looking out over at me. And when you don't, because your view is not really looking at anything, it's just personal, it's your own personal view on things. When that happens, people can think that you're selfish, like the line says. When it does transfer, and it will transfer because it's sick of being there. It's almost like it's being in an ivory tower. Rapunzel, Rapunzel, got to let down your hair because you're up in the tower, and that's the only place from which you can see. And so you got to come down once in a while into the world. And that's what the 3rd color is. You have to transfer here. To transfer, to measure, to basically pick up a bunch of measurements and a bunch of who was winning, who was losing, and you pick up your news, and then you go back to being personal again. I could see this transferring back and forth and distracting back and forth each day. And that's fine as long as you witness it taking place and no decisions based on strictly power concerns. As soon as you're recognizing you have to determine the winner and the loser, that's not necessarily the place to make your decision. I mean, I guess unless you have to, that would be up to you to know. Your place is to sit back and not take it too personally. Basically, personal is I take me personally, but I'm not really taking you all that personally. And I'm not even necessarily taking what I see all that personally. I see some of this and I see some of that. It's sort of like the definition of rightness in a way. It's just personal into yourself.
That 6th line kind of outside of the rest of the lines kind of thing, where it's like they're kind of in their own world, that like on the roof kind of vibe, where they're just having their own experience because they're up there and away from everything, just kind of witnessing it.
Yeah, the witness. This is the home of the actual original organic witness. This view, these colors, these lines. I mean, I want 2nd lines to be called the witness because I'm wicked partial to them, but I know that the 6th line in the hexagram is the true witness.
So the left arrow is observer, and they thrive through introspective reflection. Observers are recommended to journal or meditate, whereas the right arrow is the observed, and they thrive when others reflect their authenticity. and the observed seek supportive connections.
And it's not just supportive connections. The observed is looking to see that there is going to be an environment. Don't forget, these are the nodes. So the environment we just did last week, the view is the view within an environment. So recognize that. So the first thing the view is viewing is its environment and the others in it. So it does need that sort of cooperation in order to observe, or else, because then the players and the actors don't show up on the stage for them to observe. Being observed on one side and being the observer on the other side, it thrives through this, like in the left arrow, it'll be the lower three tones. It thrives on its introspective reflection. First three lines of a trigram, it's self-absorbed. Observes, journal, meditate. I like those ideas. It's the observer at a cafe, the observer out in the world. You're always observing through your personal view, untransferred into the power perspective. And when you're the observed, you're in some kind of movement. Something's going on and you're being the observed, but it's still in this personal, unpower transferred perspective, not transferred into power, it's just personal. That observed, the one that's actually in the movement doing the thing, they thrive when they know they reflect on their authenticity, observe, seek supportive connections. They sure do. But at the same time, they just seek their unique way. Because again, this is the personal thing. The personal thing is my uniqueness. The personal view is my uniqueness. That's what its view is. It's maybe observing other people's as uniqueness, but it's only as it relates to its own. That's hence the narcissistic part. It's not narcissistic. It's just a personal view. It's not their fault. As it relates to being the observed, you'll see they do thrive. Not just in community supportive connections, they thrive when stuff is happening that they feel good about and it's worth being observed. They don't even need to know they're being observed. Their view, sixth line of a role model, recognizes they're being themselves and they're worth being observed. Whether they're being observed or not is the thing. So I like this. This becomes the watcher of it all, of the 5 lower tones we've just gone over, as well as their transferences, as well as their binaries. This is the objective observer of it all. Objectiveness would be a way to place personal. It's just objective, fully objective. Like, some of this, some of that. I'm not going to hold an opinion either way.
It's interesting. It's almost like the personal can like appear to be like self-obsessed or selfish, but I would imagine someone with the perspective of power who's in transference to personal would probably come off as worse narcissistic than someone who
Absolutely,
actually
because
has
they're faking it. Their mind is having to think, and when the mind gets involved, you're a liar.
Yeah, and you're just going to get swirled thinking your rear view mirror is your forward direction.
Mm-hmm. Easily, yep.
Here we have our conclusion on perspective. So perspective shapes how you see and engage with the world. By embracing inner truth and aligning with your perspective's polarity, this brings mental clarity and authentic decision making. Avoiding transference or getting lost in transference keeps you grounded in your true lens and direction. By honoring your perspective, you navigate life with focus and purpose, aligning your mind with your human design.
And that's part of what this whole thing is about. It's about aligning yourself with your design. And through the agency of your view, remember the view, the north node of the view contains the link node. It contains how the body links into the personality in a movement. So this whole focus and purpose thing really takes shape with the view. In fact, the personality is lost and can't even tell what its purpose is, no matter how many times it reads its incarnation cross. If it can't see clearly, it'll never catch it. And that distraction will totally take it away from all of the rest of the purposes that are in profile and definition and type and incarnation cross. So aligning your mind with your human design is a function of this perspective. It's just how you see the world. And just simply put, if you've got a right facing arrow, you see peripherally. You see everything over here, over there, and you're taking in everything. And you're not necessarily the best strategic thing to know what to do with it all. You're just taking it in. And if it's a left facing arrow, you're more focused on that. You sort of see something within the entire view of things, and the periphery narrows into a more sharp, focused view. And those are the keynotes for the left and the right: peripheral and focused. That's perspective in a nutshell, and we need our perspective to be able to see right. Because if we don't see clearly, by the way, see is smell, taste, touch, hear, it's sensory intake. If we don't sensory intake correctly, we can't create the image and the correct construct of what we're actually in. And then life disorganizes and the view seems drab. If you don't have the right view, life loses its luster and its color because you can't see it. Even if your mind is certain that there's all kinds of things that are good, you can't see them. And it's not just the distraction that will upset that seeing. The distraction is the easiest one, when you transfer from one to the other. But it's everything. It's the not self characteristics. It's the not self of the defined centers that are trying to be small and not themselves. It's the not self of the open centers that are trying to be defined and not themselves. It's the not self of the bridging gates that don't get to the other side and want to be the other side. It's all of it. So view just becomes this really important thing that hooks us into a line of trajectory, and what you see is where you move, very much like what you say is what you create.
It's good stuff. And I don't know, I really love the PHS journey of getting your digestion and your food in order and then getting your body in the proper environment. And then how it does shift over to starting to see the world more clearly. And I don't know, I just experienced such a profound shift with it. It really stuck with me. And as that's been settling in over the past year of seeing the winners and the losers and not just being able to be like, oh, I don't want to deal with it. I want to be beyond it. But actually seeing who's winning and losing. And that doesn't mean I'm supposed to like get involved as a projector without being invited, but just to be able to witness it has been really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, back to the aspects of the body graph, those things are all still intact, ex parte of this view. Again, the variables is about our cognition. All four variables is how our cognition works and how our consciousness can take flight and be shared through an outer authority or not. And the design itself is that which is feeding the chemistry that is feeding all of that. And it's also holding the body up so that it can do all of that. So they're separate from each other, is the thing. But the closest thing to the body is these nodes. They are these nodes. These nodes hook the body on through the agency of gate 2, the monopole. And so that's the nodes' connection into the body. The personality and the design sun earth, those two are called the dependent variable. They totally depend on the nodes, which are the independent variable, the two nodes, and they cause the personality and the design sun earths to not only be dependent upon, but to not even know. They don't have such a hook in like the nodes do. The nodes have gate 2, the monopole. The nodes are aligned directly to the monopole and they hook us in. And that hooks us in through gate 2, the receptive. And the personality sun earths and the design sun earths have no such agency inside the body graph. They're not like a gate 1, the creative, even though they might align with the creative gate 1, but there's no true agency inside the body graph. They're just a witness. They're not even in the body. If you think about it, the personality crystal sits above the head, right above the scalp, hopefully aligning this crystal, not even in the body. So these nodes are so important. Take your view seriously and allow your view to be who you are and recognize when it's who you're not, so that you can start to see what you're supposed to see and not have that all opaque and blurry, depriving you of the life you're supposed to have. I mean, what it ends up being is you end up stealing away all your thens for your nows. You give up every now and turn it into a then. You can't live your thens. You can only live your nows. So don't let your thens rob away all your nows. It's not a fair deal. And that's what will happen if you don't see what you're supposed to see and the way you're supposed to see.
Beautiful.
I like it.
That feels like a good cherry on top.
It's a wrap, folks.
That's a wrap. Thank you, Danny. Thank you to everyone who is watching and liking, subscribing, commenting, asking questions, doing all the things. We love having you. Thanks a lot for being here, and we will catch you next week.
Till the next time. Thanks, everyone. Much love.